Welcome to another edition of Pickleball Builders. My name is Miles, and we actually have a special guest with us today. He actually is a returning guest, and he's also a friend of mine. His name is Bill Bratley. And if you recall from the earlier edition that we had, he actually is the one that I first took lessons from. And when we had him on last time, we actually ran out of time because there was a lot of things that we wanted to kind of get to and to dig into. And these things that Bill will talk about today and we'll kind of discuss are things that really helped me as I was just starting the game of pickleball. So yeah, I definitely want to welcome Bill to this edition of Pickleball Builders. And Bill, if you don't mind introducing yourself again, I know you were here before, but if you can give us a little bit of background again as well.
Thanks, Miles. Glad to be here. Bill Batley. I currently teach at the Summit Club here in Las Vegas. And after 40 years of playing pickleball or tennis, I switched 12 years ago. And I did have a sports court built in my backyard for my family, for my kids. And we played a lot of sports on that sports court. That was back in 1989. So my history with pickleball actually goes back to 89. But I switched over to pickleball 12 years ago full time. After playing pickleball for 1 year and winning multiple tournaments, I actually received the highest rating at pickleball at the time, which was 5.0. I've been teaching here in Las Vegas for the last 5 years as a certified instructor, and that's my intro, Miles. I'm going to turn off my silence this thing. There we go. Get you back. There you are. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. And I know we talked a little bit about it before we joined here. Kind of why we go into some of these things. Especially as a new player. I mean, I always think I grew up playing basketball, and I think about basketball where, something as simple as the way you're holding your arms or the way you're releasing the ball. I mean, it's really starting with the right basics so you don't have to unlearn things. And I think we even had some discussion about that when I first took some lessons from you. If you want to talk about that, maybe what is the importance of these things that we'll be going over?
When I give a full lesson, a lot of people say, I can't believe how much there is to it. Well, there is a lot to it, but the most important thing is that you're going to have fun. It's got to be a fun game. And whether you want to turn into a sport where you get serious with it, that's up to you. But the instruction I'm going to give you today is going to help you have more fun on the court. So people aren't just smashing the ball at you. You're going to know what to do. So what I'm going to talk about is for newer players or lower level players. If you're a 2.5, 3.0, 3.5, you're going to love this. If you're a 4.0, you're still going to learn things. I actually got to teach with the second best pickleball player in the world, doubles player, here at the Summit Club just last week, Riley Newman, and I learned from him.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
His instruction was incredible, but he kept it at a lower level, and I really appreciated that. So what you got to remember in pickleball versus tennis, let's say if you're coming over from tennis, you've got a huge issue to deal with. It's a small court. It's 1/4 the size of a tennis court. So you can't take these big swings and expect that ball is going to stay in the court. The paddle is a big paddle, so you don't want to be moving too much because it's a small paddle and a big ball. So you don't want to be moving too much as you're hitting the ball unless you're moving into it. That's fine. If you're moving away from it, you're just kind of slapping at the ball. I prefer people learn how to play doubles. It's a simple game. So if you're out there where there's only two of you, then I say just take half the court and take care of half the court like you had a partner. That way you're not just slapping at the ball all the time. So the number one thing you need to remember in pickleball is to keep the ball in play. If you don't keep the ball in play, the point is over very, very quickly and never get to learn to play even close to what the pros are looking like. They're finishing most of their points after about 20, 30, 40 hits, and most of them are at the kitchen line. But if you end the point early, you'll never get to the kitchen to play like the pros. And it's fun to play up there. It's not a lot of court to cover, and it's pretty intense. You got to get good at it, but you won't even, as a beginner, you won't even be up there playing for at least a year or two until you get other players that are willing to play up there too. So you want to keep the ball in play. Use the high percentage shots. Number two, put the ball where they don't want the ball. Don't just set them up. Don't give them a high forehand where they can smash it at you. Hit it more towards their feet or their knees or keep it low. And then last, and this is dead last, well, use a little extra power. Use a little extra spin. Maybe I'll go for that sideline. That's last. After you've accomplished one or two, you've done it. If you want to go to the third and put a little extra power on it and experiment with it, that's fine. But you still want to keep the ball in play and try to put it where they don't want it. They don't want it probably backhand. They probably do want a forehand. So we want to teach you on the grip. It's very important to start with the right grip. I teach the continental grip, which is, and I allow my students to slightly favor their forehand. I'm going to demonstrate that for you. On the very front of the paddle, this ridge here, I call that 0. This first ridge is 1, and over here, the flat part over here is 2. So you want this knuckle of your index finger to be on number 1. That's a true continental grip. There, that's the best way to look at it. If I just stop. And if you move slightly more towards that flat spot, that's slightly favoring your forehand now. Up here would be backhand. That's a tough one because most of your shots are going to be forehand, and you want to be on that ridge or slightly over. Now, the finger is, these three are holding the paddle. This little finger is doing nothing but resting on the butt. It's not really squeezing. These three are squeezing, the thumb and the two fingers. This extra finger is for your control. Now, the control can be up, it can be over. And here I'm using a paddle with a hole in it. Sorry, this is my number 1 paddle. And I don't recommend that to start. It gives you a lot of control, doesn't give you flexibility, doesn't give you power, doesn't give you reach, it doesn't give you anything except control. So if you're here or here, you're losing a lot of reach. A couple of good pros, one of the top 10 in the world, has 2 fingers up, I believe. So I'm down here at the butt of the paddle, so I have the full use of the wrist, of the length of the handle. And this finger up here is not gripping. It's not part of that opposing thumb. That would be opposing thumb. No, it doesn't need that to grip at all. Now it's a very light grip. You're going to be at 10 to 40% on the grip. So that's what it would look like, just like tennis. Just like that.
I do remember one of the first things you showing me was the grip. And it's interesting because now I notice, I'm so glad that I took lessons right off the bat, because even just knowing where to hold it, I notice now where a lot of players are holding it, they're holding it too far up on the paddle to where, they have less of a, less motion, less ability to hit the ball. And even I think I may have mentioned this to you. I was sitting with my brother in the car the other day after we got done playing pickleball, and I go, "Hey, show me your grip." And he had it so far up on the handle, and I'm like, "No, you're supposed to be, kind of lower." But I did forget about I forgot about the whole that there's control with using the 1 finger or 2 fingers, especially when you might be up at the kitchen.
The last thing you want is a grip like that. It's too powerful. Everything's going to pop up.
Okay.
Remember, you want a grip of 10% to 40%. So it's a very light grip. So you really don't need that extra finger to be part of that grip. You could play the whole match like this if you wanted to and not have a problem. Little
Yeah.
finger's doing almost nothing. Now I'm pretty high up.
Yeah.
I would be way down. And that is simply your control. Without that, the paddle's going to flop around. With that, it stays with your hand. So
Yeah,
that's the only purpose. Just like your finger were up.
Yeah, and I've noticed that sometimes at the kitchen or somebody drives the ball really hard and you're not ready for it, the paddle's kind of I'll be holding it kind of loosely, and then the ball just dies, on impact. So that does make sense. And I liked how you started out with talking about the number 1 thing is keeping the ball in play. I remember doing a clinic with you over at the Plaza and talking about, it was discussed about a good shot is better than a great shot. I mean, I know it always feels great, you hit a shot and you paint the line with it. However, it's best to be, I think you guys were talking about maybe 2 feet in or whatever it might be in, than trying to, force and basically unforced errors. So, yeah, that's great insight. And then what you mentioned some other things. Yeah, go ahead.
Now we're on to If the ball's coming at you, it's easy to move into the ball. But if the ball's going away from you, you got to be stopped when you hit the ball and then move forward. You can't still be moving to the side. Your brain can't comprehend where that ball is actually going to end up when you stop moving. It doesn't even know when you're going to stop moving. It sees the ball and says, when are you going to stop moving? It doesn't know when you stop. So as soon as you stop, it says, well, just swat at the ball then. No, we want to be there early and do the shot properly. So again, if it's coming at you, you have some room to move in a little bit. You're not running through it. You can move in slightly. But if it's off to the side, you want to be there, stopped, and then a slight move in towards the ball. You've got to learn how to control the pace. If they're coming at you hard, you can back off and take pace off, or you can create pace. So you want to be able to control the speed of the ball.
Yeah. No, and I like that,
Uh,
especially having your feet set, right? I mean, I think about that a lot of times when I play is, if you're trying to run and hit it, the chances of you taking it into the net or you're having it fly out of the court.
and that's the problem. Your accuracy goes down 50%. And I said keep it in play. If your accuracy is already down 50%, you're in trouble. So
Yeah.
you want to get at that 95%, 98% shots, even though you might see the pros running through it. It's a difficult shot, and their percentages will go down too. They might go from 99.9 to 90% because it is a more difficult shot.
Yeah.
So the other thing is you want to watch the ball into the paddle or very short of the paddle. You see the shot first. You know what you're going to do. Your brain says, I got it. Okay, now watch the ball. And you want to swing the ball through the paddle through the ball. And then you can look up again and say, okay, I'm back in the point and get ready for the next point to try to get in better position. Too many players stop right there and don't watch it in the paddle. They're watching the other court, the opponent, and they're missing. You want to hit the solid part of the paddle. The head of the paddle is okay. The middle of the paddle is, of course, great, and the bottom part of the paddle is always very weak.
So
So it's
you are watching the ball, just to clarify for my own question, you're watching the ball come all the way to the paddle or close to it?
right. Riley Newman, the second best doubles player in the world, said he watches it all the way to the paddle. But he's a two-hand player. He's got both hands up there, and it's easier for him to stay on top of it. I'm a one hand, which most people are, and I watch it some shots into the paddle. If it's a dink, there's nothing else to look at. Just watch it. But I see it and then I execute. Now I'm watching it about 2 or 3 inches from the paddle. I don't watch it all the way into the paddle.
Yeah.
I'm so yes, you do watch in the
Wow.
back. But I'm not looking at any other thing. I'm not trying to take my eye off the ball and look at what they're doing. Now, if they move, it might cause me to look up and say, "What are they doing?" They changed their position. Where I wanted to put it might not be the best spot, but it's better just to execute. You saw the shot you wanted to take. Your brain knows how to do it. Just watch the ball into the paddle or slightly short of the paddle, and then execute. Don't quit.
I catch myself watching the other players a lot, and that's, probably when I put it into the net. So,
Okay, now if you're watching them as the ball's coming into their paddle and coming out of their paddle, absolutely. That's the only thing you want to be watching other than trying to get in better position. But once they've hit the ball, I see where their weakness is and I'm hitting to weakness. And if they change their position, I keep that in mind. Oh, last time I did this, that person changed positions. I might be a little bit careful that he might do the same thing again. So, but
okay.
the first time I see it, I do it. I don't change my mind very often. And
That
if I
makes sense
do,
to
the
me.
accuracy goes the accuracy goes down. It's okay to change your mind once in a while. Tell your brain, no, I don't like that shot. I want to try another one. But your accuracy goes down, and that's okay occasionally. But as a rule, you can't be watching them because I'm a big faker. You watch me, and I have to tell my partner, by the way, I wasn't poaching, I was faking. Could you tell? And he goes, oh, I could tell. A fake
Okay.
is watch me and take your eye off the ball, but watch me. And then when they hit it away from me, I go, I wasn't going anywhere.
I
I
see.
rub it.
That makes
So
sense. But
I
yeah,
Half the time I'm faking, half the time I'm actually poaching. They don't know the difference, but they're really aware of me. And if they're smart, they would ignore me and just make sure that they have already decided I'm going to hit behind them, and that'll either work or not work, or I'm going to get where that poach is going to be extremely difficult.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that's even lower level players can do that against me. They just hit at my partner. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not that fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
All right. So ready position. We've got to be ready for that ball. Okay, yeah, we're there. We got to be shot ready, ready position. So the feet are apart more than your shoulders. Your knees are bent. Your paddle is right in front of you. I prefer 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock is okay. Okay. So you can't see that my knees are bent, but they will be. And the paddle is slightly at 11 o'clock. There's nothing wrong if it's two-handed being neutral right at 12, but I'm one-handed. So I would hit the ball and separate my shoulders and come forward as I hit. What you don't want is that arm to go down and become a dead arm and say, well, it's not part of the shot anymore. No, it's part of that balance and little extra power because you're separating. So this is the ready position. My knees are bent. My feet are as far apart as my shoulders, or more is good. I like 11 o'clock, paddle head up. It's not down. It's up. And I'm ready to, whatever I need to do, I'm ready with that paddle head up. Okay.
Yeah. That's one
So
thing
that's your ready position.
that's one thing that's always stayed with me. And I know that was from our lesson is, even at the kitchen or no matter where you're at, especially at the kitchen, right? When a fast shot can be coming at you, to have those knees bent. But it took me a long time. I know it took me a while to remember to not have my paddle down at my hip. I mean, to keep it up and ready. I mean, well, especially when I would take lessons with you, because the next thing I know, you'd put it in my chest.
You do and I do, but the pros, you watch them, they don't always have that position.
You say they do or they don't?
They're that fast.
Wow.
They are that fast. They can take the moving up of the paddle as part of their stroke and not miss anything.
Wow.
Some of the paddles have it up. Some of the pros have the paddle up, but most of them is down a little bit because they're fast enough to get it up. Now, if the ball's below the net, if the ball's below the net, you've got to be up. If the ball is neutral, you don't have to be up. Because of course, if it's below the net, they have to hit up, and they'll hit you in the face or the shoulders. And you got to get your paddle. You want your paddle a little bit higher than normal. But if it's even with the net or above the net, above is not where they're going to be. I like it personally because it's good technique, but they're fast enough, and my hands are fast enough for one or two shots. They're better at 4, 5, and 6 when it keeps coming.
Yeah.
I like to put it over. It's over in 1 or 2, maybe 3, because I start getting a little bit slow, a little bit out of balance because they recover so fast.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to talk about serve.
Okay.
We want to learn. I'm going to get a ball. Maybe no. So a drop serve, you just have to drop it. That's the only rule. Of course, your feet have to be in the proper position. You've got to be behind your service area.
But it doesn't matter how high though, correct? As far as how high you drop it, you just have to strike it below the waist, correct?
Yeah. Yes. No, on the drop serve, there's no rules. No rules. When it bounces, you can do whatever you want.
Wow.
Now, are you going to get a ball that's going to bounce as high as your hips? No.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. The one that is the rule that you could take advantage of is when you're taking it out of the air, there's 3 rules: upward motion, below the waist, and your paddle tip head cannot be above your wrist as you hit. I went the wrong way. I'm still doing. There we go. Paddle head has to be below.
Okay.
There. But when you take off a bounce serve, there's no rules. It's just, did you bounce it? Did you take it? Just drop it. You just have to drop the ball. So that is the easier serve. You drop it, and as soon as you drop, you go down and lift up more like bowling on your forehand side, your right side, if you're right-handed. It's a very simple serve. You just want it 2 feet from the back line is where you want to put it, so you don't have to do any power. Deep is better than power. Not saying you can't put power on it, but That's the one to learn. And then once you've mastered that, pretty much where you can get it in 19 times out of 20 would be really good.
Yeah.
And deep would be nice if half of them were deep and not too many really shallow, because you want to keep them back. You don't want them to come in and smash that ball. So
Yeah.
2 feet from the back is where you want it. And
It's
then you can start doing it out of the air. And the out of the air looks more like a forehand. When you let it bounce, it looks more like bowling.
okay.
Unless you can get that bounce high, and believe me, that ball doesn't bounce that high.
So I was playing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
One thing really quick on
yeah,
that. I was playing at Durango yesterday, and the guy I was playing with, I played with him before. He's a great player, and I noticed, he was really putting some speed on it. And don't get me wrong, he was getting some in that were like, just an ace right off the bat. But he also was putting about every third serve into the net. So I like that you
right.
say that, because I think in his mind he's like, oh, I'm just going to get to where I can just ace a serve. But it's like you talked about earlier. It's about percentages, right? What's the highest percentage? But yeah, I like that you said that a deep serve is better than driving it hard. I like that.
Definitely. One thing about a serve, though, when you serve in the net or whatever, you don't lose anything. When you return a serve in the net, you lose a point. That's
Yeah.
10% of the game.
Oh,
So
I
we go
see.
one step further and say it's okay to experiment a little bit with your serve, but return a serve's got to be in, because that's 10% of the game, just unforced air right into the net.
Yep.
You didn't give there's no chance for them to miss it. Now we're going
Yep.
to talk about return a serve.
Okay.
We want to stand behind the baseline. As soon as the serve is hit, start moving in or moving in as an angle. If it's a forehand, of course, you stop and do all the routines that we're going to cover as a forehand. A little bit more low to high, because again, a return to serve is you want to get in to the net. So you're not looking to drive the ball as much as getting it deep, and high gives you more time. Now you're welcome to smash the ball once in a while, and then you got to charge in hard with it. And once you're at the non-volley line, or maybe 2 feet behind it, with a paddle up, you're in good position. Your partner's already there. Return a serve. He's already standing there. So you're protecting the middle. Both of you are protecting that middle, so nobody can go up the middle and burn you. So high and deep is what I tell myself on every return of serve. I say high and deep, and I tell my students, you tell yourself high and deep and come in. I have to give them the extra. I know to come in. They don't always know to come in every time. So
But high.
that's the only.
That's one thing. But it's high though. I kind of have forgotten about that. You want to keep it high.
I like I like high. There is a return of serve that's cross court to their backhand that's lower, and then I have to run in harder, and that's fine. I don't mind running in hard once in a while, but I don't want to run in every time. I'm not trying to beat them. I'm just trying to get to the non-volley line as a team, and now they're in a weak position. They're going to win 10% of the time. We're going to win 90
Okay.
until they can drop one in the kitchen or drive the ball to where they can get it in the kitchen eventually. And then you're 50-50 once they're at the kitchen, but the serving team has a huge disadvantage. So why would I try an experimental return a serve and put it in the net when it's like there's 10% of the game gone? I mean, focus on getting just high and deep and come in. And
Yeah.
I mean, hit the ball, then come in, not at the same time. That's a
Okay.
very advanced shot to be able to maneuver your body slightly in as you're hitting. That's a very pro type of shot. And they don't do it that often either, but you can do it. But no, I tell my students stop, then hit the ball, then come in. I tell them
Okay.
to lunge. That next step is a lunge. Then you can slow down. Once you get that speed going, it's only a couple of steps before you're at the non-volley line. But that first one, don't baby it. Give that first one. Once you hit the ball, it's off your paddle, then you lunge with that back foot. And then you can slow down after you lunge. It's like, oh, I better slow down before I run into the net itself.
Yeah.
All right, so where are we? We're return to serve forehand. Did I have a backhand? I guess. I guess not. Backhand is what all the pros do. They just slice through it, and I'll teach you the slice if we have time. We're running out. Slice is simply cock the wrist and uncock through the ball. The paddle's back just a little bit. Angles back just a little bit.
Is it
There.
important to have a slice? I mean, that's one thing that I always.
Yes. Yes.
Is it?
Yes, it's
Okay.
easy. It's easy as shot in pickleball. It's unbelievable. You don't have to have the best footwork. You don't have the best body high to low. You don't need a little slap of the back end. And believe me, it's what the pros are doing. They
I,
hit it with side spin, back spin, all the way to the back line, right in the middle, 95% of the time. It's the same shot over and over again.
but
And
see,
it can
yeah,
work. It can work, not singles necessarily, because you want to drive the ball a little bit more in singles, but in doubles, you're shot right up the middle with a little backspin and coming in after it. It's simple. It's unbelievably simple.
okay, because that's what I've always wondered. Do you really need to develop like in that same vein, like top slide, or top
Not,
spin, slice? Like, I mean, are all those kind of in
okay,
the same family?
so for me, forehand is my weapon, backhand is my defense. I don't try to now high volley. I'm going to hit it hard at their feet, and that's somewhat offensive. But how am I going to miss? I'm
Hmm.
just taking a ball way over the net and hitting their feet. I don't have to
Okay.
hit it at 28 miles an hour. I can put it at 18 miles an hour and do the same damage. So it is that is offensive, but
Okay.
mostly my forehand is for offense, and my backhand is more defense
Okay.
until I get to the net. The backhand can be quite a weapon too.
Okay.
Let's skip the rest of the shots and just go to the biggest mistakes I see.
Okay.
You've got to hit with purpose. Keep it where they don't want the ball. Don't just hit it over the net, high above the net, and they slam it at you because you're not going to like it if they keep slamming at you. Drop it in the kitchen. Put it where they don't want it. Put it below the net. Don't hit with power. Just drop it. Um, watch. Let's see. Oh, watch the ball into the paddle. We covered that already. And as soon as you can, start moving to where the ball's going. And then, of course, when you're ready to hit, you've got to be stopped. Return the serve deep and get to the non-volley line with the paddle ready. Don't just get up there and say, "What do I do now?" I've done that before. It was very embarrassing. I got there and it's like, "What am I supposed to do?" I'm ready to hit the ball. I'm aggressive. When the opponents are at the non-volley line, hit it in the kitchen so they have to let it bounce, or they hit it below the net and hit it. They have to hit up. That's the biggest mistake. Or they stay in the transitional area; they don't come in. The whole purpose of being the back line is hit nice forehands, backhands. That's fine, but try to get to the net. The next area is the transitional area. Now you need to drop the ball in the kitchen and keep coming in. That's where you're playing 50-50 for the third time. I would really advise the third shot drop versus the drive, unless you want to drive it at 22 miles an hour, 3, 4, 5 inches above the net. Learn the third shot drop. Ben Johns, the best player in the world by far, uses third shot drop 90% of the time or more, not less, more.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
spending too much time watching your shot. You hit the shot, and it's like, I'm watching it. No, you need to track the ball, yes, but start moving to get in a better position. You're not going to be in the perfect position after just hitting the ball. Something's got to be adjusted.
That's what always happens when I hit a third shot drop. Not all the time, but a lot of times I'll just sit there and watch it and be like, "Oh, I hope that thing goes in." And then I'm like, "Oh wait, now I got to run. Now I got to like get up to
Yeah,
the kitchen."
yeah, it's a difficult thing to get trust in you and your partner because it's both of you go in as a team. Is that ball going to drop or not? You can't always do it right, but you don't want to be stuck back there when you're dropping good shots in the kitchen. Now, if they're definitely too high and they're going to smash it at you, stay back. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
But if it's a drop or they're going to catch it below the net, then you want to at least get 2 feet from the non-volley line.
Okay.
Let me, I know time's running out. Let me do a little conclusion. Pickleball is going to be a sport for you. I said it before, or is it just going to be fun? Either way, I've got you covered today. Because the more you learn about the game, the more fun it's going to be. And eventually, if you want to turn it into a sport, I mean, you're going to play it quite a few times a week. You're going to be care about what paddle you buy and who your partner is and where you're going to get good games. That's a sport now. And signing up for a tournament, maybe one or two a year. If you want to get better with the game, contact me. I'll give you the name of a certified instructor in Las Vegas, depending on your play, your availability, his availability. I'm also a good resource for buying a paddle. A good paddle is $120 to $200. It will help with your game if you have a decent paddle. If it's a $20 paddle, those are hard. I can't teach students very easily with a $20 paddle. I give them one of mine. And
Yeah.
I can also give you information about how to join a tournament and what it's like to play in a tournament. So,
Okay.
how's that?
What's the best way to contact you?
My cell phone, 702
Hmm.
708 9948 is the best by far.
Okay. All right, perfect. And then, yeah, I mean, I know once we start digging into these things, we could go on and on, right? I mean, that's why I love having you as a guest on here is because just, even for me after going through these lessons with you, because I'm in a different place, right? You're always at a different place, at least for me, whenever I'm like listening or trying to learn from people like yourself. So I really appreciate it. And
When
I
I
know our listeners appreciate it too.
when I teach forehand, I say, okay, there's two forehands. One's a drop in the kitchen, one's all the way to the back line. Teach it totally separate. They're different.
Hmm.
Same with the backhand. What's your purpose? Is it to keep me back? Great. We'll do that snap, slice. And if it's in the kitchen, it's more of a lift ink. It's more of a lift in front of you.
Yeah.
And that is my point is the most important. And I tell my students that I said, what do you want to, which one do you want to start with? Because it does vary. Do you want to start with a hard hit or do you want to start with a soft one? But I
Yeah.
tell them every time, when you master that soft one, that's more important than any other shot you've got. That third shot or transitional, drop the ball into the kitchen and follow it up into the kitchen. Now you're playing pickleball. The biggest compliment I can give my students is I say, that's pickleball. That's what it's like. We actually got to the kitchen. We actually got some shots off in the kitchen. That is real pickleball, but it takes a lot of work to get that third shot to where you can come in or return a serve that's deep enough to where the opponent doesn't just smash the ball at you. But once you get up to that non-volley line and know what to do once you're up there, because
Yeah.
once they're up there, I don't know what to do. It's like, that's good. I haven't
Yeah.
taught you that yet. I'm going
Yeah.
to teach you that next.
Yeah.
So
That's
you're
half
ready
that.
for the play up. Yes, you got halfway there. Now we got
Yeah.
to finish it up. But it is that transitional shot or the third shot, however you want to call it, dropping in the kitchen is by far the most important shot in all of pickleball. If you can't do that, you'll never play the kitchen game, and there are actually games you can invent that are just strictly kitchen. You never go anywhere but play the kitchen. Those are fun games to play.
Yeah. No,
You don't
that's
know serve,
awesome.
know anything. You simply just dink the ball until somebody misses.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I know I really appreciate the insight, and so do our listeners. And I want to thank you again, Bill, for joining us for another, edition of Pickleball Builders. And we would love to have you on again. And just remember to everyone to comment, like, and share. And we look forward to having you here again.